dare I say, one of those was a little bit louder than the others.
And as it should be, I mean, we are on Korean home soil here, a lot of Gen.G fans here to support the team. Also very good to see the LGE fans here as well. You could hear the Chinese chants in the Megs as we head on to the first opening round of Busan.
Teams, I don't think this Torbjorn's for real. Let's just strike that one off real quick. Yeah, it is going to be the Symmetra rollout here for both of these teams.
Notably, Wikid has been subbed out for this opening map as well. He was the other player I would have talked to because he is from Seoul Dynasty. We are starting with Glister and Stalker here. Glister, of course, on that Doomfist, and well, it's going to be Merit on the other side.
And I mean, we kind of talked about that being a bit of a question, who's playing what. Now I think the quick question is, how exactly does Merit stack up against Glister specifically? We already see Glister winding up, instant connection on the J-Mac, first casualty, very quick smite. Usually we see a little bit more jostling in those opening fights, and between him and Stalker, they're having absolutely no trouble further following that up, removing the DPSs. That's an early fight win for Gen.G.
And consider LGE jostled in this situation. Gen.G immediately on that cap now. Should take it very quickly in LGE. I mean, this is not the start they're looking for. J-Mac so quickly taken out. Glister doing whatever he likes, and Merit, unfortunately, a little bit quiet to start.
We'll just see if they can turn that shape of things back around. In all fairness, LGE.Huya aren't too far behind in terms of most ultimates here. Even the J-Mac who went down so early in that fight. Granted, so did Overwatch. So now Gen.G looking to come on in, but again, earlier Coalescence just slightly out of creative, and a quick kill conversion coming out from Glister. And you already see LGE.Huya not really bringing anything to bear here. Gen.G are looking very clean, very ironclad.
And even when Glister gets hit by accretion, even when he's perhaps in trouble versus other teams and other matches, we've seen, okay, a Doomfist in that scenario probably goes down. Glister, he just walks back up, gets himself back up on the ropes, straight into the other team already. And LGE.Huya just so far haven't really shown up. They haven't really done enough damage here. They haven't got enough kills. They're definitely not on the point.
Meteor strike out of Glister. Aggressive, I assume, straight into the backline. Doesn't find anything all that early, but they have bought Sven low. That's enough to finish him off. Nice trade up, though, with Overwatch. You've got to say, LGE.Huya might have legs here. Sound Barrier is going to make this one a bit tricky for Merit. Still goes on in and does not have the health to back it up. Very quick pick up there from Stalker, and once again, LGE.Huya not getting any headway in these fights.
Some of these ultimates just coming in a little bit too late here, unfortunately for Linsa. Only just manages to get the sound barrier charged up after the flux has been used on the other side, after the abilities and all the ultimates have been expended by Gen.G to maintain control over this first point. 75 and counting, and LG have still not won a fight.
This is their best opportunity, though. This is the first time they come in with, honestly, quite a significant advantage. J-Mac just trots onto the point, drops the supercharger down right in the middle of it, a bold statement of nothing else. Unfortunately, both superchargers already out of the mix, but LGE.Huya should have the deeper pockets here. Kami with the death loss and finds Oberon first casualty, and so many low members of Gen.G. They've also managed to flip the cap partway through this. Now we're also getting the clean up while already ticking up percentage. Nice turnaround for LGE.Huya.
That was the important fight for them, right? Because they needed to come in last fight territory. They have ultimates in the back, use them effectively. Sound Barrier going into a Death Blossom, both generating that value. Gen.G, though, should be happy to just take a little break for now, reassessing their situation, getting those ults back.
That's the thing, your fight's been so clean, you can't be mad about the 94% with very little expended up until this point. LGE.Huya, though, this is a slightly more critical fight, dare I say, because without having any particular tools at their disposal, they had a very clean fight.
I will say something though, Merit's actually been doing a decent amount of damage compared to Glister. The difference, however, in that regard, is Glister has had a lot more final blows. So far for Gen.G, they are able to find a lot of these opening pegs, but LGE.Huya, on this particular fight that we just saw, very important for them to win because they are also in an ultimate rebuilding phase.
Also, Wuyal coming on up with a bit of clutch. It's been quite a ways away using it recently. Merit's looking to get aggressive, big chunks though as he tries to make that move. They do find out Glister in the mix of that though. That Coalescence now from Creative maybe not getting the maximum possible value. Now Oberon as well, and LGE.Huya really keeping Gen.G contained at this particular choke point.
And that's the space control that we need to see as well. LGE not allowing Gen.G to leave the base, leave the choke, go into the open. Having that space control also allows someone like this to go down early if he oversteps, using that advantage. 6v5 turns into 6v4, and now Gen.G are bleeding a lot of time away. 80% now clocked up LGE.
Yeah, they've all but equalized, right? Certainly over the course of this one, which could even be the last one. I mean, and now it started off with Glister going down, right? LGE.Huya also rotating into some ultimates. Death Blossom finds over on out. Blue preventing clutch.
Desperation,
high
sound
enough
barrier.
value. Stalker with the Death Blossom layered on top. Does find Kami, but goes down himself, and they're not getting the kind of trades they need. It's just Creative with a Coalescence here, and there's still a sound barrier in Lens's pocket that he doesn't even need to use. First round goes over to LGE.Huya.
And I'll tell you what, LGE have the slower card to start, but their one didn't break down mid-race. They made it to the finish line. Gen.G, though, a couple of questions there. Towards the last couple of fights, you see in a row, it's Glister going down super early, getting punished by the likes of Merit now. Merit's now starting to really creep up in terms of his value and his effectiveness for his team. And once we start to get on a roll, the momentum building for a team like LGE, that snowball did not stop rolling until it reached the bottom.
Now we need to see if that maintains into our second round here. If LGE.Huya can get a slightly more successful opening fight. It felt like once they were in control, when they were able to more set the pace of the match, dictate where fights happened, they were doing a lot better. But when they had to attack into someone else's position, they were struggling quite a bit until they had an ultimate advantage.
Going for the opening fight now on the downtown section. LGE leading by 1 round so far as Glister's looking for that opening.
Quite get the early one, but look at the old charge on Glister there. Certainly dealt a few blows, but it's actually Merit who finds the opening frag, picking up Bliss. And with that, the numbers advantage, they could just write that one out as it is. Gen.G are getting very low in these health bars, and Glister is struggling to find any opportunity for a counter trade.
Now this should be over fairly soon, unless Gen.G can hold on to these members, and you look at Glister, can he get a counter trade? His life is so low though.
Every time he goes in, someone has their eyes right on him. They don't want to let him have that opportunity. Also this time, Creative not quite ahead enough of Molly. That being said, Glister's respawned by now. That was the opening pick, and LGE.Huya didn't get any more. Now they're the ones who lost someone. It's Lenser and Glister. Instant follow up with a Meteor Strike. Gen.G really holding on by a thread. They're not letting LGE.Huya quite go to the point, and were able to rally and come back.
And despite getting that opening pick onto Bliss, by the way, they just never pulled the trigger again. It felt like their weapon jammed after that firing of the first shot, and now LGE.Huya, they actually lose the first cap despite having that advantage.
And it felt like a better fight for LGE.Huya in so many ways. I mean, until it wasn't, right? Now, interestingly enough, looking to push back in with Meteor Strike onto Merit. Doesn't find anything with that in particular. Just looking to get that opening conversion.
Mia Sven now working towards the Flux. Bliss already has the sound barrier available. Over on down though, could be an opening.
He got very low, but was able to slip out there, and also has a Death Blossom as they rotate onto the point. Now it's actually Gen.G attacking in with that sound barrier, but they've already given the point over. That being said, this fight is not going well for LGE.Huya. Gen.G just have more in the bag.
Keeping the tempo on their side. Bliss used the sound barrier slightly early, but Gen.G had allowed them to push in, allowed them to collect those kills. They now still maintain control of the point so far. However, looking at our previous round, if LGE.Huya can get this point flipped over again and maintain control of that for the entire duration, this can still be a 2-0.
But it feels like they're starting to do better and better in these fights where they don't necessarily have a flat ultimate advantage. That sound barrier and supercharger, but down this very narrow pathway, Gen.G have kind of funneled themselves right into what Kami and Molly wanted to throw their ultimates at. That's honestly an easy pickup for LGE.Huya.
And sometimes kicking down the door is exactly the method you need if you are LGE.Huya, because on one hand, you're saving the sound barrier for Wuhao and his Flux. On the other hand, if you can just break through, use Death Blossom, win that team fight, be 3 up on members, is Wuhao really going to use Flux now? Doesn't matter. This is where you're going to actually get the cap, and this is where you can start to catch up as well.
And that was what they were able to do on Mega Base, so the ability to maybe replicate that success is potentially there. Kami just keeps the pressure on these tanks, but that's going to be preventing Flux up from Wuhao. Slams them down, nothing early. Merit's down though, that's big, and a very big pickup with Sven as well. Suddenly the dominoes fall, so LGE.Huya not quite going to get that same shut-out approach once they got control of the point in earnest.
And this is the difficulty, right? Because knowing you've already used sound barrier, your next approach when Gen.G come back in is going to be important. You know that Flux is on the table. You know it can be a game-winning ult. In this case, it definitely was. Your main carry here, Merit, gets taken down by that almost instantly. LGE needed to space properly and needed to respect that ult.
Looking to push in now. LGE.Huya still honestly in a reasonable position. This hasn't been a runaway success for Gen.G. In fact, if anything, it's been rockier than Mega Base up until the point LGE.Huya took control, and now in this fight, early kill onto Glister means Merit wants to go aggressive with this Meteor Strike. A little bit of a wacky one, but they're able to get the kills. Very nicely done between himself and Kami. LGE.Huya back in control once again, and the flip-flop continues.
Where have we seen 96% before, Pixie?
Yeah.
This is when LGE start to really get the groove of things, coming up through a few ultimates as well. And unlike that opening fight that we saw, they definitely pulled the trigger 2, 3, 4 times to make sure after the first pick, they were going to convert it into more.
They seem very cool and collected in these moves as well, right? We're seeing them going, okay, we have this opportunity, let's go for it. And they just look clean, they look controlled, and they look relatively calm.
So Ham now, Kami just being slightly spotted out. Does this Flux get anything?
Sound barrier from Blizz to help answer it. It's actually Kami down first. The sound barrier from Lens is not quite enough to rescue him. They need to lean big time into the Supercharger, but J-Max already feeling the heat. Merit is keeping them in this one as the Supercharger gets finished off. Numbers are actually even now in favor of LGE.Huya, and because this has been a protracted fight, it could well end up being the last one.
90% and counting. Gen.G waiting for those respawners. They know they have one last shot. Glist and Stalker both alive now, and they got to get on this point.
And all they've got is the Gravitic Flux into the Meteor Strike, the alley-oop combo here. Wuyol, what goes up doesn't really go all that far. Now the Meteor Strike looking for a low member. They found Merit though, that might just be enough. Big pickups there as Stalker barges down the front door while Glister knocks down the patio door out back. With that, Gen.G going to wrest control back. This is going to be a 99-99, I dare say, but this time it's going to be one that falls in favor of Gen.G to even us up on Busan.
You got to believe now that LGE certainly just do not have the members to reapproach this point. The patience required from a team like Gen.G to understand, okay, it's 90%. We've lost both DPSs. We're in a lot of trouble here. We need to be the ones to get back on the point. Wuyol opens up with a Flux, doesn't do a lot, but what it does do is create space for his team, because every member of LGE that wants to avoid the Flux sidestepped it. They moved away. They opened up this positioning for LGE to then enter onto the point, collect those kills. And unfortunately, LGE.Huya couldn't respond.
That is the second map, though, here on Busan that has gone relatively close, right? 99-99. The first one was 94%, I believe, for Gen.G, something in that ballpark. So again, incredibly high, incredibly close, and you've got to say this is starting to feel like a bit of a game of inches.
A game where the final fights certainly do dictate who is going to come out on top, as you would expect, but it comes down to both teams being at 99% for that to happen.
Oh, that's a double connection, but because Glister was the one that went forward with that, he ends up a little bit high and dry, a little bit overextended in some capacity. LGE.Huya very much in control of this one. Now this is 2 picks instead of the 1 they got previously. I dare say with this one they should be able to get the point.
And Gen.G discipline are just going to exit out of this fight, take their losses and regroup for the next one. LGE have finally collected the first cap and won that first fight.
Question is, can they win the last one? That was what cost them just previously, but they're looking good once again.
Well, the good news is they don't have to start from a deficit. They can have the advantage early on. Gen.G still looking for approach here. Oberon positioning right in the middle.
Creative massively leads Molly here, actually immediately pops the Coalescence, but Glister does take some heat now. Molly can actually match, and no one's gone down as Creatives is about to run out. A little bit of split focus there. Molly can't quite catch them all with that single beam, and Merit goes down in the chaos. Now Kami following Molly himself the drop, and Gen.G, despite not getting good value early out of the ultimates, they still maneuvered themselves into a very favorable position in the fight, created a bit of chaos in the ranks.
You see how clean that was as well. Gen.G approached that point. Oberon sets himself down. Out comes Glister from that angle, but actually it's Stalker that does the damage to get those kills. LG, once again, no response, no counter trades in this fight. They're going to have to take it on the chin, though. 38% is a decent lead, but you feel that Gen.G will be at the match pretty soon.
LGE.Huya, if they can get control of the point back and do so quickly, they could still be in a nice position. They've got the ultimates potentially to back it up, but you got to say Glister and Stalker massively leading Kami and Merit in that instance.
Sound barrier available for Lensa, however, it's going to be pretty important because Wuyol does once again have that Flux.
Oh, goes for it, is only really finding Oberon, who goes down, immediately drops the Supercharger, and then himself drops to the grave. Stalker getting the damage in, and they're just not getting much done. Merit's going to go down, trying to keep this one in. Kami got 1 kill, but it's just not enough here for LGE.Huya. Now Glister goes hunt to killer to pick up the dregs, and Gen.G retain control.
And here's the problem. Sven goes for the Flux first, countered up by Bliss's sound barrier. When Wuyol finally goes for his one, Lens is already down to Stalker on the side, so there was no response, no counter to that ability, and now Gen.G maintain control once again. They're climbing up now, 60% almost, and LGE are still just trying to get their way back on the point.
You got to believe that they can, though. Stalker taking some heat early, has the back right off. Kami tries to look for an opportunity there. There's a bit of a wacky there. Blossom. LGE.Huya weren't quite looking to make that move just yet, but at any rate, they still lose one. Now, traded up the
Expertly
Glister.
dodged.
Yeah, don't know what Kami just not getting anything out of that. I suppose also even still didn't get much out of his either, but at any rate, it's a 2-for-1 favoring Gen.G, and now I think LGE.Huya have to accept that it's time to back off.
Kami thought he had a free kill onto Creative, who still held the fade, so instantly gets himself to safety. And now Gen.G, I mean, this is looking fantastic. 90%, 38 on the other side. LGE once more find themselves in a situation where this is the must-win fight.
This is getting a little bit closer to one-sided, especially if LGE.Huya don't win this. It'll be our most one-sided map on Busan so far, in fact, but they are on the point ready to fight. Meteor Strike not doing much, but now Coalescence running out, trying to maybe get some pain onto Stalker.
We need to see LGE clean up some of these kills. They're doing a lot of damage. Stalker's low, Glister takes a lot as well, but they just can't get those kills.
There was a nice move by Kami, but they couldn't quite capitalize on the position they created. They hits it in the members of Gen.G, but by surviving that, Gen.G are able to finish charging those ultimates. They drop them all down like a packet of dynamite, and with that, Gen.G are going to manage to storm their way through to the end there. As soon as they got control, they did not lose it, and they pick up Busan.
2-1 here. You got to say it was fairly competitive overall, and the capability for LGE to maybe take this entire map was on the table. But we get to the third round, suddenly it just doesn't seem that way anymore, where we had on the first 2 rounds, slow start for LGE. They had a really nice resurgence towards the end. They have some good cleanups. This time around in that third round for Sanctuary, it's the opposite. They have a good start, early cap, they couldn't get that beforehand, but towards the end, they start to fall apart.
Feels like both teams ramped up a bit over the course of that map. LGE.Huya, like you said, difference in first fights, but Gen.G, the difference in the rest of the execution certainly ramped up. So the question now will end up being, does LGE.Huya have any capacity to ramp up any further, or does Gen.G just kind of start to outpace them here? At any rate, Gen.G currently have the lead. Could also just end up being a 3-0, all that and more, I guess. We'll find out after this break.
안녕하세요. 저희는 Gen.G 오버워치 컨텐더스 팀입니다. 저희 Gen.G는 한국 최고의 시설과 환경에서 건틀렛을 준비하고 있습니다. 이번 건틀렛에서는 좀 예상치 못한 전력으로 나오도록 하겠습니다. 기대해주세요.
Welcome back then, where things are, I dare say, relatively situation normal for Gen.G. LGE.Huya are making it interesting though.
They certainly are. They're doing a lot better than maybe some have expected. Maybe others would have said this is their power level all along, but you still have to remember they are underdogs in this particular group, in this particular tournament, as are all the one-seeded regions. Substitution coming in, Stalker out, Wakid in, and this was a player that was talking about before we headed into map 1, because he's one of the, you would say now, more veteran players on this team, the more decorated players. Seoul Dynasty, he was also on the Apex stage at one point as well for LWRL, so very good to see him in.
We'll have to see what impact that ends up having. I mean, at the end of the day, Stalker was doing, I dare say, quite a fine job. But, I mean, Wakid's name kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Like, does this mean that they'll do an even better job than what Stalker was bringing to the team? And we talked about Gen.G ramping up over time. Whether that means this is like an even bigger step up that's just going to leave LGE.Huya in the dust is what we're looking to see here.
And this is going to be the first Eichenwalde, if I'm not mistaken, for the tournament so far, because it's been Kings Row, a lot of Kings Row, by the way, a little bit of Hollywood, but zero Eichenwalde. And it's going to be now LGE taking us to Germany. I wonder what they got in store, because this has been in the past, or at least when you look at Overwatch League playoffs, a pretty Bastion-heavy kind of map. Also, potentially the Fire is going to come out.
And you wonder if that's, you know, part of the approach here. I think there is a world where LGE.Huya do know that Gen.G are a very strong team, and, you know, there may be places where they edge them out just a little bit if they can come at it instead with something a bit more pre-prepared, something that maybe Gen.G aren't as ready on in terms of strategies, then hey, that's an angle they can take. Whether that's what happens remains to be seen. And I'm curious in that regard, whether we do see a Bastion, indeed whether we even see a Bastion out of Gen.G.
So this may be why I believe Wakid is definitely in here. He has a bit of a projectile pull, even though he played a lot of Tracer for Seoul Dynasty, and you know, there it is right now. Farah coming out from him, Glista moving over to the Bastion. Of course, the teams can make the substitutions after they know what the map is, and well, if you know it's Eichenwalde, time to bring in your Farah play.
Makes a heck of a lot of sense. LGE.Huya, see how they choose to approach it, because again, they're the ones who picked this map. They're not going to have done so, you know, not expecting a Bastion. They will also have something prepared to deal with this.
And this specific Bastion, Pharah, and Mercy composition has gained a lot of popularity, because what the Pharah's job is as the pressure release valve for the Bastion. As the team, attacking team in this case, tries to progress onto the Bastion, Wiki should be looking for a flanking angle, forcing LGE members to look at him instead, and thus by relieving the pressure on the Bastion play.
We're going to find out pretty quick, Smart, what Gen.G are bringing to bear. But to start with, LGE.Huya not doing anything too wacky. They do have Molly on the Ana, though, over the Moira. It's probably the only difference.
So straight away, after seeing the Bastion in the mix, Kami's going to go over to the main, mirror onto the Reaper this time around. They're going to go for a ground approach. Not a lot of damage, unfortunately, against Wiki, so he's going to need to be the main member for the distraction.
LGE.Huya looking to rotate, but Wiki is all over it like a rash. They are absolutely thrown into disarray on that one. I think half of them didn't make it back, the other half did, and now LGE.Huya need to figure out how to get back together so they can start rotating again.
Does need to be a little bit careful, dropping too low, but does get Lancer very quickly as well, because the one way that you can kill the King here is if he gets caught by J-Max Holt.
That was really rough there for LGE.Huya, you have to say. Now the rest of the team is kind of in no man's land. Again, figuring out how exactly they're going to regroup and reapproach. You don't want to lose more members now that Lens has respawned, but they are starting to regroup about now.
13,000 damage per 10 on this member so far, represented by the fact that he's got 82% on his ultimate. No one else is even really close, except for the supports who've been healing.
LGE.Huya still actually got themselves a bit separated out here. They sort of regrouped. You got like 3 members who kind of clustered together who are now all kind of hunkering down, hiding from Glister while simultaneously trying to pressure him. This feels really off-kilter for LGE.Huya.
And this is when we need to see Wicked fly in, because she does still have the barrage available. That's going to be Molly down now. So LGE looking for the 5v6, and Wicked's still on the hunt.
Man, at what point do you hard reset? Like, it's not even like this is Merit sitting here with a Death Blossom waiting for an opportune moment. This is Merit just out in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to regroup with his team.
Yeah, but he's also looking to go on the flank anyway. So when his team does go in, this is where now Merit can strike.
The hold does come in. He doesn't quite get the quick conversion though.
J-Man.
Has the Wraith walk out. Now, that's unfortunate. Glister finally gets that firing line, and this is actually a slightly harder reset now for LGE.Huya.
And you'd like to see LGE.Huya maybe get that Immortality field out for a bit of a cheaper cost, because they cost them 3 members this time around, a full reset, 150 on the timer remaining. By the time they actually get a done and dust, if they cap at all, you'd like to imagine they probably have way less than 1 minute, if not we're in the overtime.
And it feels like they haven't really had like a serious ideal push since the very first one. Like, they've never actually regrouped as a 6 and fully approached again. It's always been, you know, a little bit off kilter. Now LGE.Huya again approaching a 6, but so behind in ultimates, and the spam damage from Wiki still unanswered.
He's a real problem here for LGE.Huya. They've not been able to address him. You see the wild accretion coming from Sven every now and then, but otherwise, when he can dodge that one, if he can run away from the holds as well, Gen.G, they don't have to use anything. Look at the ultimates being built up here. They're about to hit all 6. Wiki, this is his original rocket barrage that he has not needed to use.
And it's not like LGE.Huya spent all that time charging up ultimates as well. They spent a lot of it like hiding and walking around and maybe trying to regroup as best as they can, and that's where you get things like Merit only on 50% now. Gen.G nearly have all 6 ultimates.
We're about to see the stage where less than 1 minute and we're going to get the second fight of the entire game. A lot of them have been skirmishes. One of them was LGE.Huya kind of running at the Bastion, trying to get the Mortality field out, and finally the rocket barrage comes through.
Just picking on Molly, and it ends up paying off for Wiki. He doesn't get punished, he doesn't go down. Now 1 healer less, as Sven is super low, and Lenser, the sound barrier's already been used and long since expired. He goes down. They just can't keep these members in the mix, and with less than 30 seconds and LGE.Huya still actually losing members, I don't really see them reapproaching this point in time.
They have to have a super fast reset here. In particular, it's got to be Kami, because he's holding on to the Blizzard. There's 15 seconds, okay, now they can't reset at all, and that was their most important ultimate.
That is absolutely brutal for Kami. J-Mag's going to go over to the Wrecking Ball. They may just be able to touch here, but they're even coming at this still at an ultimate deficit. There's going to be an amplification matrix. They're going to be raining bullets from the Bastion every time someone tries to approach this point. Sven isn't even going to get there. I don't even think they forced the overtime much further beyond this.
And they needed to see the Flux come through as well. That was the other ultimate that maybe could have done something, but now they got no one. Kami's finally back to the point. He's going to die as well.
Gets the Blizzard down technically, so style points for that one, but doesn't actually extend the overtime himself. That's a full-on shutout. We wanted if Gen.G were going to ramp up further. They have accelerated at an exponential rate here.
The problem for LGE is they've taken the side of Gen.G to a preferable map choice for them. They're like, you want to go to Eichenwalde, we're going to bring out Wicked. The fire is going to be exceptional, and it was indeed, because you see how much damage he does overall. Absolutely extreme. Set around the 14,000 damage per 10 the entire time. Glister was just there kind of just playing sentry mode. He doesn't have anything to shoot because Wiki's doing most of it. Glister only had about 8k damage per 10 just because he wasn't even touched. Most of the LGE players couldn't even get to Glister because Wicked was just kind of weeding them out.
I wonder how much damage of that is actually accounted for basically right at the end there when he got, I think, 2 or 3 kills, because for the first time LGE.Huya just kind of had to barrel to the point, and that's the ideal time for Glister to just sit back with the firing line that you want the Bastion to do. You can't afford to rotate and avoid the Bastion. You got to just stand in front of the bullets, and lo and behold, no one really made it to the point.
And I think you can just get a glimpse of how dominant the defense were just looking at the ultimates. Not just, okay, they have 6 ultimates, but the fact that they never really had to spend anything up until the last fight. If you're the attacking team, and the position of the game state you're in, is the fact that, oh, we haven't gotten any ultimates out of the enemy team. They're still holding on to the full stack. You're in a lot of trouble. Speaking of a lot of trouble, LGE now defend this. Their best chance is to prevent a single tick from coming through to get a draw.
And look, a draw at least means you just move on. It's still only a 1 and 0 because of the first of 3 rules, but I think the reality is LGE.Huya are kind of staring down the barrel of a 2-0 with Gen.G at match point. Maybe the question is actually how long do they hold out for, or does Gen.G just turn this into a one and done?
So this is very interesting because Gen.G are starting out with their own Bastion once more, but on the attack. Usually you see it on the defense, so LGE.Huya are not playing anything too wacky here. Standard compositions. It's going to be Reaper Doomfist, but once more, they have to attack into Blister.
And I like this from Gen.G. They know they've got the time to do this. They can just set up position after position, slowly move closer to that point, slowly force LGE.Huya to counter-rotate, move backwards. So far, though, LGE.Huya haven't had to give up too much ground.
But the trick is, you may need to give up some ground on purpose, such that you bait the Glister, the Bastion, out into the open, find that flank around, because right now, he's hiding behind a bunker, and you can't approach him at all.
Sven taking some bullets there that I don't think he was expecting to be hit by, and now they're having to make that move backwards.
And this is important now. Glister's finding out in the open. Yes, the amplification matrix is out there, but you don't need to play into it.
Yeah, they don't have a firing line on that. Unfortunately, though, Merritt just finds himself out in no man's land, and Blister just turns around, takes him out. Now LGE.Huya already in numbers deficit as the Coalescence comes out, trying to rake across, maybe finishing off Wiki, but can't quite get it done. Blister is still really unthreatened right now, sitting pretty under the immortality field. 3 kills to his name now, plus the one previously on Merritt. It has been cracked wide open in LGE.Huya with just a few slivers left of defense here. I don't see them lasting much longer.
And when you see LGE.Huya finally go for the collapse, they went for everybody except Glister, who is still alive. Defensive now, Blizzard on the point to make sure no members can contest. One tech, not going to be good enough. One tech, just enough for a team like Gen.G to go up 2-0 in the series.
I asked the question, was it going to be a one and done? And, well, the answer was a very clear yes. It's a bit of a slow one, but that's more or less just how the Bastion strat plays out. There was no real point there where Blister was actually threatened. And we talked to the top of Eichenwald about strats these teams might have prepared. Again, that was LGE.Huya's map pick. It looked worse than Bussard.
And this is what's confusing, because you look at LGE.Huya, why did you pick this map? If you just wanted to play Reaper Doom, go to Kings Road, go to Hollywood, go to anywhere. That's not Eichenwald, because this is where Wiki's going to come out on stuff like Fire. This is where Glister comes out on a Bastion. And you can see how well practiced this is. I mean, LGE had no idea how to approach them at all.
We'll have to see if they can figure out how to approach Gen.G on Assault, which will be coming up next, because honestly, right now, Gen.G just taking strides where LGE.Huya are making baby steps.